Get ready for the big revival. The real estate revival, that is. Now on 77 WABC, your New York weekend.
Get ready for the big revival.
It's Rand on Real Estate with Greg Rand.
Welcome to the big real estate revival. This is Greg Rand, Rand on Real Estate on 77 WABC and WABCRadio.com. I'm here with Laura Smith. How are you?
Great. Thanks for letting me be your co-pilot.
I love having you as my co-pilot. We're going to talk about the rich getting richer today. You've been hearing a lot about that in the news, I think. The latest government intrusion or intervention in the housing market. We're going to speak a bit about that. We're going to do the real estate deep dive, focus on a market in Southwest Florida, a place where there's an enormous amount of investment going on, and we've got an expert on the phone who's going to tell you about some of the opportunities he's seeing. So, you know, this show is all about capitalist business, real estate talk radio. We're about having you see the future as being bright, opportunity all around you, and then focusing your attention on specific places, sometimes local, sometimes around the country, of where money's being made in the real estate market, despite the dreaded housing meltdown, the dreaded Great Recession. So we're going to get into all of that today, and I want to start off with the rich getting richer. We have been treated to a political battle over the last, it seems like forever, but really over the last month, over this extension of the tax cuts that President Bush put in place 10 years ago. And just over the last couple of days, there's been a drumbeat about this because there's some compromise going on in Washington about it. And what you hear basically is one side saying one thing and the other side saying the other thing. And everybody on either side of the argument seems to say the exact same thing every time. I think it's one of the consequences of the 24-hour news cycle is that when people go on these news channels, and I get on news TV fairly frequently, and people are always surprised to find that there's no rehearsal whatsoever. There's no rehearsal. You don't even have a conversation with the reporters or the anchor people beforehand. You get a couple of bullet points of what's going to be discussed, and then it's up to you to go live and have a reasonable conversation. And what I'm finding as I now see it from the inside, and I watch it now on TV, is that so frequently an argument winds up, the sound bites are almost identical. No matter what channel you go to, there's a right and there's a left, and there's a talking point on the right and a talking point on the left, and there's almost no deviation from the script, and it begins to drive you crazy. So I've got an audio here of one side of this equation. This might sound familiar to you.
Now, Washington made the rich richer.
The rich richer, most
making the rich richer.
The rich have gotten a lot richer.
The rich got richer.
The rich getting richer. Okay, so obviously somebody put that out there, or I don't imagine that it's some kind of conspiracy of controlling people in terms of what they say, but I think it has more to do with the fact, more of a lack of creativity, or maybe just the idea that once a buzz phrase sort of permeates, it becomes the buzz phrase. And to be fair, the other side of that argument is small business is not going to create jobs. Don't increase taxes on small business. Small business, small business. And so you'll be watching CNN or CNBC or whatever, and you'll have one person saying Republicans want to make rich richer, and you'll have somebody else saying, but if you increase taxes on the small business person, it's going to stunt the economy. And the conversation never goes any further than that. And so if you don't know about that subject, it seems to be this way on almost everything they talk about. They never get into any depth anymore. They just draw the battle lines, shoot the missiles at each other, and then go on to the next segment. So I wanted to take a moment to explain, because I have a very firm opinion as an entrepreneur and a capitalist and a businessman. I can tell you what it's like to be trying to operate in this environment. Trying to run a business successfully during the Great Recession is a pretty tricky order. And I wanted to share with you what it means when they say that if you raise taxes on people that are higher income, it's going to stunt the economy and stunt employment and keep the recession from ending and the recovery from continuing. And so let me try to bring you into the mindset of somebody who runs a business and how it's been and how now it's feeling a little bit differently than it did just a couple of days ago, and how I believe this is the beginning of the recovery happening now because of the way it feels in my own heart and people that I talk to in business. Let's imagine you run a business and your total gross receipts are $5 million a year, okay? So I don't care if it's a restaurant or you sell copiers, whatever it is. You generate $5 million a year when things are doing great. And you have $4.5 million of expenses every year, so you make $500,000 in your pocket. It's a great year, okay? That's what's happening during the roaring 2000s. You made that kind of money. You made $500,000 on a $5 million a year business. Then the recession hits, and people aren't using your business as much, okay? They're not buying the copiers and they're not going out to dinner. And that $5 million gross revenue winds up now being $4 million, right? So the market came down 20%, not so bad. You're now making $4 million a year in gross, but don't forget your expenses were $4.5 million. So if you don't do something, you're going to lose $500,000. Now, keep in mind, if I made $500,000, then I paid taxes on it. I actually put about, $300,000 in my pocket. If I lose $500,000, I have to take $500,000 out of my savings if I have it, and then put it into the business to stay afloat. So of course I don't do that. I skinny down my expenses. I try to reduce my costs. Maybe I lay off some people, whatever. I do whatever it takes to get my expenses under $4 million because that's all I'm bringing in terms of gross. So now you fast forward to 2010, and there's been this talk about come January 1st, 2011, we're going to see an increase in taxes. We're going to roll back the clock to before Bush cut taxes, and there's going to be an increase in the top rates. As a business owner, I don't know if I'm going to make any money this year. I don't know if I'm going to make any money next year. It isn't like I go into work in the morning and have a salary that I can count on. I have to go into work and figure out a way to turn $1 into $1.10 or $1.20 every day, and in a downward economy, I don't know if I can do that. So when you tell me that my expenses might go up starting in January, if I've got $1 in my pocket, where's that dollar going to stay? Right in my pocket. If I've got $1 in a vault or in a bank account, that buck is going to stay exactly where it is because I don't know if I'm going to need it in January to cover my losses. I just don't know. You've heard them throw around uncertainty a lot. Uncertainty is one of the things holding the economy back. It's absolutely true. And that tax increase was a level of uncertainty because I didn't know. I can't figure out on the back of a napkin how much my taxes are going to be if I don't even know how much I'm going to be making. My CPA can't even do that. So there's just this cloud of not knowing if I'm going to make anything, and if I lose money, how much I'm going to lose, and if my expenses are going to go up. It's kind of paralyzing. I see opportunities, but I don't want to take advantage of them because I'm paralyzed. Now, add to that the idea that there was a health care bill that got passed. And that health care bill, I don't know much about it. The people who signed it didn't even know much about it. All I know is that it got signed without being read. It's big. And what I heard recently is a whole bunch of businesses and a couple of unions got exempted from it because they read it and figured out that it was going to mess their situation up in 2011. And so they got a stay of execution. They got a year off before they had to implement it. So as a business owner who doesn't have a staff of CPAs and lawyers to go and read that thing and figure out how it applies to me, all it does is it adds to the mounting uncertainty of what my life is going to cost me in 2011. So two major things. Now, the third one, and this is the one that I think has had the biggest impact. As a business owner, there has been a target on my back for the last 2 years, and I feel it like somebody actually tattooed it on me. Yeah, I know. The politicians, they talk about, small business is the backbone of the economy, blah, blah, blah. That is lip service. When they're saying what they believe, when you look in their eyes and you see passion in their eyes, they don't appreciate. They have resentment towards prosperous businesses. I'm not rich, not in my book, okay? But they say that I am. And so the way that they talk about me, the way that they treat me, the way that they, when they toss their rhetoric around about the rich getting richer and people that are in my category, and again, I'm not rich, okay? But I fit the income requirements that cause me to be rich according to this tax debate that's been going on. There are a lot of people, you just heard like 6 of them in that clip, who put me in the category as being an American villain. All right, somebody who is looking out for himself only, who is taking away from other people. And see, I'm not afraid of anything in the business world. I'm not afraid of a competitor. I have been able to outmaneuver competitors. If they get a jump on me, I just find a way to get around them. If my product becomes less attractive to my clients, well, then I change what my product is. I have never been intimidated or afraid of competing out there in the free market. But when I saw what the government did when they decided that Wall Street were villains and they regulated the way they did, when I saw the way they're treating banks in the foreclosure crisis, when I see the way that when there's somebody who's in their crosshairs, they can ruin that person's business. They can ruin that person's livelihood. And I've got kids at home. And so this looming sense that where there I was thinking that I was one of the heroes of the free market. I'm an entrepreneur, right? It's a good thing. You're out there, you're trying to make something out of nothing, you're employing people, but all of a sudden you become a bad guy. That creates a level of paralysis that's even more paralyzing than the potential tax increases and the potential cost of health care. So when we get back, I want to tell you how I think that situation is turning the corner now because of the way that I'm feeling and others around me are feeling. So stay with us. Rand on Real Estate on 77 WABC.